Hi everybody, on here, and I'm coming to you with this month's video. Very exciting times that we are in right now, and it's funny because some of you know recently I left a full-time job due to some physical issues that I was dealing with. And, you know, as everything started to come down in the world, and I was talking with another friend of mine who does a lot of her own work as well. And she's like, you know, my life really hasn't changed. And we were talking about, you know, isn't it interesting how we, when we get into these entrepreneurial modes, that sometimes it's positive and it's sad at the same time, because you start to realize, or at least I did in this situation, that one, my life hasn't changed so much as other people's lives have changed in the process of what's happening around the world and what's going on and how my daily schedule is. And so I, in some ways, maybe am less affected by some of the things that are happening. I mean, certainly there's still a lot of things I have to pay attention to and be aware of along the way. But on another hand, you know, and that allows me to, in some ways, like I said, be maybe a little more resilient or not as affected, because my routine isn't shifted in the same way that maybe somebody else's routine is that has been working a job and now is suddenly at home. And then on the other hand, I look at it and say, you know, wow, isn't that kind of sad? And it kind of woke me up a little bit and thought to myself, man, I really spend a lot of time inside and I need to get out more. And part of that's been because of the winter months, and part of that's been because I've been working to do a lot of rehabilitation with my body and to bring it into a better space. And I think I'm well on track to doing that right now. And I've definitely seen some improvements and still have a ways to go. But, you know, in wintertime, it's kind of hard to get out. And when the ground has been very icy this year, it's made it even harder to do some of the trails and some of the hiking and things like that that I normally would love to do. And so with the warmer weather coming on, I'm looking forward to having some time to get out a little bit. And I actually went for a walk yesterday and I was like, wow, this feels so good. And it feels so amazing just to be outside for a few moments. And it really brings me into this month's topic, which is really about, you know, are we appreciating, are we embracing the opportunities that are available to us right now? And, you know, when we go through things on an everyday way and in that everyday space and mode, we forget how much we have to be appreciative for each and every day. You know, we may not like going to work at a regular job, for example, but we forget how nice it is just to get out, just to do something, just to be able to interact with people face to face. And it's oftentimes takes something very dramatic or very drastic in action for us to realize all of these things that we have to be appreciative of on a day-to-day basis. So it always amuses me when people come and they say, well, I don't feel like I have anything to be appreciative of. I don't have anything to be grateful for. And I'm thinking to myself, with all the journeys that Jessie went through, with the things I've been through, there's always a ton for us to be grateful for. And we forget, again, about some of these little basics, pieces of things that we could be saying, you know, thanks for each and every day. And it's the basics of freedom. It's the basics of being able to go out and take a walk, being able to interact. And if we can find that space of gratitude, it's going to become really, really powerful for us. But I really want to get into some big aspects here today. And I'm fortunate. I don't really have to worry about anybody else being around. So if you see me touching my face, please, COVID people, don't freak out. I am probably one of the healthiest people out there based on the way I live, and I think that's important. But I want to get into some key concepts of this aspect of embracing opportunities, because sometimes, and what I see happening for a lot of people, especially in drastic circumstances, is that they get so wrapped up in their victim spaces. They get so wrapped up in, I'm confined, I'm restricted, I can't do anything, that they forget to look at the opportunities. They forget to look at how many gifts are available to them right here and now. And I was reading through the codes a little bit this morning, looking at what's coming in for the upcoming month and our current new moon cycles and everything. And I thought, wow, this is really a big piece for us to be able to get right now. And what better timing than the circumstances we're in, when many people, if not, most of the people around the world are in this confinement period, this 2-week confinement period. And of course, that's varying depending on where you are in the world, and that could become longer. That could, we don't really know at this point. And the key is not for us to always know the answer. And I think as human beings, we oftentimes get really stuck on feeling like we have to know all the answers. We have to know what's happening. We have to know when something's going to end. We have to have all of these time restrictions. And the reason that we seek that is because our human mind panics a lot of times if it doesn't have answers, if it's sitting in uncertainty. And yet, uncertainty is, in some ways, really the very essence of the space of spirit. Spirit doesn't work on timelines. It doesn't work on deadlines. It doesn't work on all these schedules. It works on flow. And it works on when things are happening and when certain things come together. This is why nature, if we look at nature, nature works in divine timing versus earthly timing. And we have been so programmed and so trained to be in this earth timing, this structured timing, which when we really get down to what that's about, that structured timing is really about control. It's about forcing a group of people to be in a certain mindset or a certain coordination or a certain structure, where then if they get out of that structure, their fears can be manipulated, their fears can be triggered, they settle in unrest, they become disabled in their mind, and then when that happens, they become even more programmable. So there's a lot of underlying pieces, and I'm not going to get into all of those underlying pieces today because I could talk for so long on all of these different components, and I do want to try to keep the video to a reasonable time frame today, if that's at all possible. I know I've been running into that longer time period by the time the meditation gets in, and there's always a lot of concepts that I want to share with you and a lot of points that I want to bring out. So I kind of highlighted some key points here for us to consider, and I narrowed down to about 3 key components that are really playing into this ability to embrace the opportunities that we have right now. And if we are willing to let go of this sense of restriction, then we can step into these key points. And we can then open ourselves to come into divine alignment during restriction or during challenges or during times that are triggering and trying us, because in that process, it allows us to step onto divine timing. It allows us to look at what is possible instead of what is impossible. When we focus on what is impossible, we are working in a very human mindset, a very restricted mindset, and a very fearful mindset. But when we look at what is possible, we are working with our soul's mindset. We are working with God mindset. We are working with the aspects of being open instead of closed. So just because we have physical restrictions in our world right now doesn't mean that we need to be placing those restrictions also on our mind or ourselves. And there are so many opportunities if we consider what this time is offering for us. An opportunity to rest, an opportunity to reprogram things that haven't been working for us, an opportunity to reset and develop new patterns and new ways of thinking. It is opportunities to tap into our creativity right now, to explore things. How many times do we sit around thinking, I just wish I had the time to do this, or I just wish I had the time to rest? And I think the challenge, if some people are like me, I have been loving the peace and quiet, and then this morning it's like all the noise kicked up again as if it was 2 weeks ago or something. And it was really strange to hear all the cars on the road again. And yet it comes down to that aspect of choosing it, because when it's chosen for us, it becomes an unsettling piece oftentimes for our human self. And when we choose it, it becomes a real gift. So part of this aspect of going into opportunities has to do with choosing to enjoy this time, choosing to work with the opportunities that are available to us. And they are numerous, just like the things that we have to be grateful for every day. These are numerous because it gives us that chance to get out, and the aspect of getting to know people a little bit. What do our neighbors need? Who are our neighbors? Not that we're having that face-to-face contact, but in some ways we are getting to know them a little bit better. Family members maybe that we haven't spent a lot of time with, and now we are spending a lot of time with. It's an opportunity to reconcile things. It's an opportunity to come together. And even if you're alone, even if you're in a place that has you in a sort of restriction aspect, a self-containment aspect, we have the internet. We have opportunities to still interact with people and to open these things that we haven't had time for or given time for. So the three components that we have in embracing opportunities that are really key players to all of this is an open heart, accept success, and receptive learning. And when these three pieces, and I'm going to break down the individual codes on these as well as some other points, but when these three pieces come together in things, what we find is that we step into the wisdom, what I like to call sometimes is the wisdom of the Magi, which is the wisdom that brings us into success through operating from our divine self. So this is a very powerful combination to come together, and the codes right now, and as we transition into next month, talk about these particular things. They talk about these particular aspects. So, when you're reading in the book, for those that have the book, you're going to see some of these terms come up or these concepts come up, and there will be more detail in some ways on them. So when we look at really what an open heart is, we have two key components that play into that. Being open in codes means to reflect on and learn from and consider the actions we have taken from the past. And this is a very interesting piece, because we may need to draw on something from our past to repeat it. We may need to see where we were off course before and put ourselves back on course. So this is part of being open. And it's very interesting. We even see this on a global level where they are looking at the one drug that was used on malaria from the past. So we can see where the mindset of Trump, whether he realizes it or not, is actually working in alignment with the codes. He's actually in this flow right now, and his thought process to go and look at a non-addictive drug, and that was a very important piece, is really important right now. That creates a divine flow. And this is where I look at some of these things, and some people might question them, and I start drawing on the codes of it, and I'm like, oh, this plays into that. That's really valuable. Or this is actually really in alignment. So I know this is a good direction to go. So even when other people might have some uncertainty about things, I'm like, nope, we're good. We're right on alignment. And so that's an interesting piece. Now, heart, of course, as we know, heart is unconditional love. And heart is the essence of God. Heart is the essence of operating in pure and compassionate ways. And so that heart space is coming from a space of purity. It's coming from a space of operating through the soul self and what does not feed the addictions or the distortions. So this is a very important piece. When we bring these two components together and we look at learning from our past so that we can operate in compassion and love now, we then open ourselves to being able to teach and to learn simultaneously. We open ourselves to saying, if we are working with an open heart with ourselves and others right now, then we will be able to step up and be the leader, because some people, all they need is somebody to lead the way for whatever reason, and there's numerous reasons behind that. They just need somebody to step up and take the lead. So if you step up and take the lead in being kind to somebody and being compassionate and helping somebody who's in need, or even helping yourself in some cases, sometimes we're the ones that are in need and we need to do that self-care. When you do these pieces and these aspects, then you automatically are leading people to success. And I think that's a key piece. What can I be doing right now to lead people to success? For me, it's sharing wisdom. For somebody else, it might be running to the store and getting them food or whatever else because they have a harder time getting out. There can be numerous things with that. But any wise leader or teacher knows that they are constantly learning. Nothing is 100% set in stone. So just because something was a fact 5 or 6 years ago doesn't mean that it is fact now. Doesn't mean it's the best course, because there are new pieces coming in. Just like COVID virus is not the same as malaria, but there's enough similarities there that we can draw on the wisdom from that and bring it forward. But at the same time, we're constantly learning about the nuances that are involved with this particular situation or this particular instance that's going on. So this becomes very powerful. An open heart is receptive. It's leading through actions. It's leading through actions that are aligned with divine spirit, with God. It is leading and learning at the same time. And they're really not separable. In all honesty, they're really not. So this is a very powerful piece. And then the next big piece that we have is to accept success. And this, I think, is a really hard one for a lot of people, because to accept success when all they're focusing on is failure is really challenging for them to do. Okay? A lot of people, they get so wrapped up in only what their eyes can see. And so if their eyes are not physically seeing it, it's hard for them to tune in and accept that there are successful things that are happening. This is one thing I've consistently said to people along the way. There are good things that are going to come out of this, even if it feels challenging right now, even if it feels restrictive right now, even if everything feels like it's in chaos right now, there are good things that are going to come out of this. And that's not just about being in a positive mindset. Accepting success goes a whole lot deeper, because if we sit there and say, oh my God, the world is terrible and everything is horrible and there's all this fear mindset going on and all this fear aspect going on, we are literally rejecting the possibilities for success. We are literally rejecting the opportunities that are available to us right now. So we want to make this big shift, and we want to come back around and say that we choose to align into accepting success. We want to get in that space to accept success. And again, that can be very hard when our physical eyes are seeing something different. But if we really tune into our soul, we know that success is happening. We know that there are big successes that are happening. So we have two again, key components here, which one plays right off of the open heart. When we work with the open heart, we naturally will put ourselves to step into a place where we can accept. And acceptance is huge, whether we are trying to get over anything in our life, whether we are trying to move forward in life. We have to accept that something is possible. We have to accept the opportunity is available to us, even if we don't know how to get there. And that is a big piece. We don't always realize or understand how to get someplace, but that doesn't mean we have to reject it because we can't understand it. Big piece right there. Let me say that again. It doesn't mean that we have to reject it because we can't understand it. So that means that we can still accept something as possible, even if we don't understand how it can be. This is huge. This is huge in our own lives. This is huge in the world right now. If we can accept the possibility of having greater peace on our earth, if we can accept that we are in a transition and a transcendent process right now, then we open ourselves up to experience the blessings of this situation. That is huge. This is wisdom. And the way we start to learn how things will come about is to step into taking action to get us there. Remember that leadership? Step into doing, even if it's a small piece. Like I said, even a small piece of just holding love in your heart. If that's all you can do is to hold some love in your heart for anyone or anything, whether it's an animal on the face of the earth, or a neighbor, or a family member, or a friend, or yourself. Accept that it is possible. Because when we accept, victory and success is always assured. Always. When we come in to a space where we accept. That's a pretty powerful piece right there. Success. Success is about responsibility. This is an interesting piece, and this is probably a big piece of why people oftentimes reject success unconsciously, because they don't want to act responsibly, or they're so heavy set in the programs of and distortions of rebelling against responsibility, rebelling against taking accountability for themselves, rebelling against doing what needs to be done and making their own decisions. How many times do we go out and look to somebody else to tell us what to do, instead of learning for ourselves, instead of getting the experience for ourselves? How many times do we do that? a lot. A lot of people do it a lot. So they're naturally rejecting the very success that they're trying to bring in the door. And when they sit in that space of rejecting, it's really hard to see the opportunities. It's really hard to see the possibilities and things. So this is a gigantic piece, really, this accept success. Because when we come into these two components and we accept success into our life, into our hearts, into ourselves, and we accept it through an open heart, we are now in command of things. That means we have the power to turn anything around. We have the power to lead others into a positive space. We have the ability to create destiny instead of being at the hands of fate. And I talked about destiny and fate not that long ago in one of my videos. This is the powerful space to be in. So when we accept success right in through the core of our heart, we are standing in command and we have the ability to move things in God's direction. We have the ability to move in alliance with God's direction. That's a really powerful thing because God's in every one of us. We are the essence of God, each and every one of us. And one of our core responsibilities is to emanate that through an open heart. These are big pieces I'm throwing at you this month because these are big times right now. Powerful things, lots of work happening. Some of you might feel like, hey, I'm not really doing anything, but you're doing a whole lot just sitting in the consciousness, just being aware. Huge. So our third big piece that we have in all of this, and I've got my little notes here because there's some things that I do want to, that I'm going to be coming back to or expanding on a little bit. Our third big piece is receptive learning. And people might think, well, what's receptive learning? Isn't all learning receptive? Not necessarily, because we learn in a lot of different ways, right? We learn sometimes because we go out and explore and search for something and we want to understand it that way. We also learn through experiences that we have in the world. Sometimes those are pleasant experiences for us. Sometimes they're not pleasant experiences. So like right now, a lot of people might consider what's happening in the world unpleasant, but we are learning a whole lot in that experience that we're having right now, especially if we open ourselves to being in a learning space. So receptive learning, though, is a very interesting piece because when we look at being receptive actually aligns with standing in our true self. It aligns with freedom to be who we are. It aligns with looking at what's coming in to our life and seeing how that fits with us. Does that fit with our true self? Does that fit with distortions? Are we open to being who we really are in this process? Receptive learning is about learning to stand on our own, in our own wholeness, in the essence of everything we are, which is the essence of God, which is the essence of divine spirit. It is the essence of everything that is. And realizing that everything in its true form is actually really incredible, powerful, and beautiful. But too oftentimes we don't get to see that beauty because of maybe a distortion that it's in. And then learning comes back to that reflecting on our past. It comes back into this timelessness of reflecting on other experiences and knowledge that we've gotten through experiences in our life to help us make wiser decisions, to help us learn and to understand who we really are and who we are becoming and who we want to shift into. And just because you don't feel like the world is supporting you in that, doesn't mean that you can't be that. That is where you have to step up and take the leadership to be who you are. And if you are in situations that are not allowing that, then look to the experiences you've had in the past. Look to where you have been able to be yourself. Look to what that looks like for you. And then start taking the steps to move into that. Receptive learning has a lot to do with knowing ourself, you might say. And when these pieces come together, what happens is we generate success into our life. We create pleasant outcomes for ourselves by being who we are and staying true to that. And staying true to honoring having a life, having freedom, having the ability to move through the world in our own way. This is a really important piece because so much of our programming has told us over the last many decades that we don't have that choice to be who we are. We have to do what others want. And that's not true. That's not true to God. That's not true to who we are. And that's not who we are. Each one of us has our own style, our own piece, our own way. And that might be overlapping the way some other people do things. It might have nothing to do with the way other people do things, and that's okay. When we stand in our own true self, in truth, we are always nourishing that divine presence. We are always nourishing the open heart. So you see how this kind of cycles back around again? If we stand true to who we are, we will find the successes. Maybe not in the way our human mind thinks about them, but we will open ourselves to the opportunities that allow us to find those successes through who we are instead of through what we're told we have to be, or told that we have to do things somebody else's way to make it. This has been a huge lie of distorted programming in our world. It has been a huge lie that we have to bend and manipulate to the way others are. And we're seeing this lie be exposed because we're seeing more and more of the grassroots movements. We're seeing more and more of the indie artists getting their time. We're seeing more of the entrepreneurs being supported. And that is huge because when we are supporting the individual, the whole is going to see success from that. The whole is going to see success from the small businesses being supported that are not bought out and being run by the big corporations. And the reason for that is because we are supporting freedom. We are supporting divine principles. We are supporting something that is much bigger and much greater than just the self. We are supporting creativity, and creativity is a huge piece of divine presence. So when we support these things, we are supporting divine presence. As long as they're not out harming and hurting people, we are supporting divine presence. So in this whole learning process, learning the truth of things, being open to the opportunities that that truth offers us, being open to seeing what things really are instead of just the way that we've been told that they are. We are in these times right now that it is mind-blowing for a lot of people. It is a lot for their heads to take in and to digest and to process, because so much of what they've known to be true, they're finding out isn't true. The tables are turning right now, and the tides are shifting. And this is powerful, powerful times, and I want each of you to be able to maximize the energy of these times through these concepts, which is why I'm taking the extra time and why I'm sharing more at this point. So a couple more little pieces, and I have my notes here, which is why I'm threw my glasses on for a minute. And it has to do with the success piece. When I was talking about accepting success and bringing all of this together and how this brings us into wisdom, we really need to consider what we're building our successes on. So as we're looking at the opportunities that we're pursuing, success only lasts where we have built on a solid foundation and where we have created a lasting stability, or what can be lasting stability. So one example of this is to release the excesses and to create from pure and true wisdom. And to build on a solid foundation, as we all know, and we all innately know this, no matter what your belief system is, no matter where you come from, we all know that there is no greater foundation than love and compassion and opportunities. We know that freedom is a solid foundation. We know that love is a solid foundation. If we try to build something on lies and distortions, it is going to crumble. And we are seeing that repeatedly in our world right now. What is built on lies and this is where it gets tough, because so many people have their biases, so many people have their judgments on what they think should be right or not right. And the key is to step back into observation and say, what is crumbling and what is succeeding? What is crumbling and what is succeeding? And really look at that through receptive learning. Really look at that through an open heart. Because that's where you're going to see the truth. If you can let go of all your perceptions of things and look at what is actually happening, only those things that are built on true love will last. And this is why we're seeing a lot of people stepping away from corporations right now. We're seeing heads of states or countries or rulership positions stepping down. This is one piece to all of that. There's a lot involved with that. But this is one piece to that. Because they have built on unsolid foundations. Now, these structures may have lasted for a long time. These corporations may have lasted for a long time. But guess who is surviving right now? They're surviving in communities like where I live, where people care about one another. The survival is not just surviving, but being able to thrive without fear. Where people are helping one another. Where farmers are stepping forward and providing whatever food they can. And not only not price gouging, but reducing their prices. People are helping out. And what is happening? People are stepping up to support them. And this is what I love to see, because when I see this happening in the world, I know we're moving in the right direction. because we are supporting one another in our freedom, in our dreams, and what is God aligned. It's really, really powerful stuff. And just because you live in a big city doesn't mean that you can't implement this. There are communities all over of where people could help each other out in their own building. We have to break down these fear structures, and they are going to crumble. So if you are attached to those fear structures, it's going to be a heck of a lot harder on you than it will be somebody who's coming from an open heart. Now, I want to share an example of one more piece from this, because in all of this success and in this aspect of seeing the opportunities, it's really about also enjoying the abundance that you have at hand instead of being result focused. Okay? Instead of being result focused and wanting what isn't available. And this comes down to waste. Okay? And it looks like my camera went a little dark there. This comes down to waste. And I'm sure it'll snap back up because we got heavy clouds out here today and operating in it. So if we're constantly wanting what we don't have, we end up wasting what we do have. And because all of nature works by seasons, and let me see if I can adjust this a little bit just to get some sort of light here. There we go. All of nature works by seasons. And if we sit around moaning and griping and complaining about not having what isn't in season, we are wasting away our abundance. And that is going to apply to every level, because it's just like food, right? All these people went out and stockpiled this food, but if they are not wanting to eat the food that they got, that food's going to go to waste. And that hurts. That's not just about, well, I didn't use this and so it went to waste. But that hurts everybody, because that hurts the people who could have used that food. You know, if you're not going to use something, give it away. Really, you know, there's food pantries all over the place. There are plenty of people wanting food and help and need it if you're not going to use it. But the key is really to come into this appreciation for what is in season and not waste that. And I have a couple of paragraphs I want to read from the April codes here. So the ones that are coming in here in just about a week, because it has a great analogy in the book, The Code Journey, for those that are wondering what that is. There we go. Now you can see it. The Code Journey. This is the 2020 version. And by the way, the ebook I just marked down to $6.99, so I just did a discount on it. Great opportunity for those that want to explore it that way. But I love the paperback personally, just because there's so much in it, and I'm always flipping back and through, and I have markers and things to help me out. But this analogy that comes from the April influences is a really great one. And this waste aspect is just like focusing on a particular result instead of being open to what is available in a present. And our freedom stimulates out of working with what is available and abundant and present right here, right now. Instead of this constant wanting, longing. Doesn't mean that you can't strive towards something, but it's just about appreciating what's in the moment. It's the success is going to come from what's abundant and what is in season, so to say. So this little excerpt brings out here, and it says, if we become too focused on a particular result, then we often don't feel like much has come through. And we may miss how much abundance is present for us. Get that? We might actually miss it if we're too focused on having something that isn't available to us right now. Doesn't mean that we can't have it in its season, but we need to be focused on what we've got right now. For example, if you wanted berries and you have apples, then you may need to consider that it is no longer the season for berries. However, just because it is not the season for something doesn't mean that we shouldn't enjoy the apples while we have them. Okay? A little bit of gratitude, a little bit of appreciation. Enjoy what you have while you have it. Like me, enjoying the silence while it was here, because it's not always going to have that silence. And of course today showed that, because now there's a lot of noise on the streets. When we appreciate something and don't let things go to waste, it is like canning and preserving fruit or other food. We will always have some to enjoy when we would like to enjoy it. However, if we waste it or don't use it because it is not what we want in the moment, then we will likely feel deprived and will have little to nothing, and things will not be available when we want them. Nature is a powerful thing. When we embrace it, not all foods grow and produce at the same time. Everything comes forth when it's the timing and conditions are ripe for it to be there. The foods that grow at a particular time are exactly the nutrients that our bodies need at that time. And when we eat by what is in season, we provide ourselves with optimal nutrition and are synchronized with the natural cycles, which in turn allow us to function at our optimum and to honor each thing in its time. So this is really, really important, this whole aspect of using what we have. As you can see, it's what we have is what we need at this time. And that's a hard piece also for people to accept. We may not like confinement. We may not like, and I see I'm having light issues again. Here's the light keeps changing behind me. We may not like having these different components and these different pieces. We might not like these restrictions right now, but they may be, just maybe, they are exactly what we need. That's a pretty big concept right there. What if all of this is exactly what we need in order to create the opportunities that bring us amazing blessings into our life? What if that is the case? Now there's something to think about. And how many times does that happen in our life where we get too wrapped up on the deprivation, where we waste things away and we don't take advantage of the opportunities. We don't see what we have right in front of us. And so if we use this time wisely, as the Magi would use it, then we are going to open some pretty incredible doors. And if we can appreciate what we have to work with now, and if it's more than what you want, can it? Preserve it. Set some of it aside. Okay? Not just food, but everything else. Just don't waste it. Because these are powerful times, and they are powerful influence in the direction our world heads and in the direction our lives go right now. And being out in the world, that doesn't matter. What you're doing here matters. So again, right, we've got our 3 key concepts. An open heart, accept success, and receptive learning. Big, big pieces. Whew. Okay, I threw a whole lot at you, and this is longer than the last couple of videos. So we are going to do a little bit of singing bowl work here, a little bit of breathing into all of this, because this was a lot, I know. And I know a lot of us have our minds kind of overwhelmed with everything right now. So let's go ahead And go ahead, close your eyes. Let's breathe into this a little bit. Let's find our center, our focus with all of these concepts. And now, I want you to focus on how you can expand, how you can open your heart right now. In what ways can you be in an open heart? And just feel the expansion in your heart center. Feel it opening, feel it progressing. And you'll find as you breathe into that heart center and you feel it opening, all sense of restriction becomes removed. You can breathe easy. There's a relaxation, there's a peace. There's a calmness and there's a strength that comes forward with an open heart. And now we're going to move into the belly, the diaphragm, and the belly. And focus on breathing into that area, because it is in that area that we process, that we digest, and that holds the energy of acceptance. And take the time now to really accept true success. Not the distortions, not all the material world per se successes, but the real successes. The successes that maybe they're connected to something specific in your life, but they too bring peace. The true success is open hearts of everyone, everywhere. The true successes overcome what makes us sick, whether that is a physical ailment or whether that is a mindset or whether that is a program that we have bought into. But true success, it just comes. And as you breathe into that, you will also feel the tightness in the belly. Some people might even get a little gurgling or movement in their belly. There is a calm, there is an ease. Now we want to move into receptive learning. So I want you to bring your energy right up to the center of your forehead, your breath into the center of your forehead. Some call that the third eye. the intuitive area. And this is the way nature works. Nature works intuitive in combination with what is reasonable and practical and what steps are being taken. When we truly sit into the receptiveness, the receptive learning, we expand beyond our physical limitations. We expand into having true and pure knowledge enter us. We expand into the ways of nature, divine flow, clarity, and truth. And as you center into that energy, receptive learning, you may feel the expansion happening in your third eye. There may be heat. There may be relaxation. There may be peace of mind. You come to know that everything is as it is, and every season offers us abundance. Every aspect, every dynamic in life offers us abundance and opportunity. It is a time to grow out of what restricts us and into being and living as our own true, free spirit. It creates partnership with the human mind to work through an open heart and accept success. Come back into awareness. Come back into consciousness of self and body. And breathe into that. And if you have anything of love that you would like to send into the world, then send it. Maybe as a seed hearts of others, but knowing, even feeling it in your own heart, awakens that seed in each and every other person in the world. And every step that you take to embrace these aspects in yourself, so will you awaken them in the collective. And I welcome you back. And for those that are not quite ready to come out of all of this, well then, as I bring this to a close, you may want to put a pause on the video's playing so it doesn't bump into another video somewhere. And you can remain in this peace. You can remain in this space. And you know, as I close all of this with these concepts, and ask you once again to think about the numerous, numerous opportunities available to you and to us as a collective human race right now. There are so many possibilities available to us. So I hope that you'll embrace that and use this time to explore, to reflect, to tune into this amazing abundance we have when the outer world wants us to feel scared and scarce. From my heart to yours, may you carry this wisdom through and actively implement it during the next month. What if we all held an open heart, accepted success, and did receptive learning? What would our world be like? What would our lives be like? What could we create? I'm not here to tell you all the answers. I'm only here to open the doors and give you the wisdom and the insight for you to unfold it through your own experiences in your own life. Take care, everybody. I'll see you next month.